There should be 2 bolts that hold this cover down right here. Use a 10mm socket or whatever size that they actually are. Pull those 2 bolts out and then just grab this cover and just pop it up like that. It's just secured on right there. There may be another grommet over here. Yep, there's a grommet right there that fell off. So just pull that up. You can remove this hose. Use a hose clamp pliers. Just slide it down. And just try to wiggle this off. Just like that. There's 2 bolts right here. Use a 10mm socket. Remove those 2 bolts. And we want to remove this intake duct. Use a straight blade screwdriver, loosen up this clamp right here. You can slide that off and then loosen up the clamp over here. And just slide this side off the airbox. And out of your way. Just to remove the airbox, get it out of your way. Just slide these 2 clips off. Disconnect the connector right here. Just push down, and there might be a retainer. Just pry that off with a trim tool, and just pull that up. Take these 2 bolts out right here, the 10mm. Use a 10mm socket. And this one right here. There's 2 brackets right here. I'm just going to remove the bolts for those. There's a 10mm socket. Just take the bolt out. Disconnect the hose that's right here. You just slide it out and right here. And then there's another hose down here that's attached. You just gotta pop that out of the fan shroud assembly. We're gonna remove this hose so that we can pull the fan shroud out and up. You could always have a drain bucket underneath here. Just make sure you don't do this when the vehicle is hot. It's same with taking the coolant cap off. Just use a hose clamp pliers, slide this clamp down. You can just twist this off. And it's pretty dry, that's good. You just slide that out of the way. Take a 10mm wrench and you can loosen up the nuts that are on the fan clutch. And the belt, since the belt's still on, it makes it a little easier. Loosen them up. At this time, you can take the nuts off. You don't have to take the fan off completely. With everything loose, you can just raise this up and reach in here. Just grab the fan. Just raise it up about to there. You can slide the fan out. Right here. Just like that. You can try to slide it out on the other side as well, but that works. And slide the rest of the fan shroud off. There is a hose at the bottom. You're gonna have to slide that hose off. And then it'll come out completely. It's not connected or anything. A little bit of a wiggle. There's some screws through these holes underneath the bumper. You want to take those out. Use a 10mm socket. Try to get those out. And there's 2 under here. And just slide this cover down. And if you can find the drain, just loosen it up. Make sure you have a drain bucket underneath. Make sure you don't do this when this is hot, and it's always a good idea to take the cap off So if there's any pressure in there, you don't have any pressure. There we go. Let that drain out. After it's all drained out, you can just put that plug back in. With this coolant hose right here, there is a hose clamp on it. Use some hose clamp pliers and move that hose clamp down. Squeeze that, slide that down. Then sometimes if you just wiggle the hose back and forth, twist it, you can slide it right off. Just like that. Slide that out of the way. Then there's another hose right here that crosses over. Get under there with the hose clamp pliers. Sometimes needle nose pliers work a little better. Slide that down and then twist it. Even using some hose pliers or a pick. If you get a pick underneath the hose, there we go. Slide that off and out of the way. There's 3 bolts you need to remove, one on the side, one a little bit to the right, and then one underneath. So take those off. Use a 10mm socket. And you might lose some more coolant, so make sure you have your drain bucket in the right spot. And slide it out. You want to clean up this surface right here. If there's any gasket material, you want to take a scraper or a razor blade, just be careful, and scrape it off. You want it as clean as possible. But normally just a rag and some brake parts cleaner will do the job. Now that's all cleaned up, take the thermostat, put the gasket on, make sure all the holes line up, and we'll get some of the bolts started. If you get the 2 corner bolts started, that'll hold the gasket on a little bit. Just line that up. All right, that's started. Now I'll get the bottom bolt in. Now you want to torque these to 80 inch-pounds. Make sure you're on inch-pounds, not foot-pounds. That's good. Put this hose back on and then slide the clamp down. And the other hose, line it up, slide it over, get that lined up. That looks good. You can slide this shield back in place. Line it up, put the screws back in, and tighten them down. Now take the fan shroud and just kind of get it slightly in the right location. Once it's about there, then grab the fan. Try to slide them down together. Just slide that fan on the pulley and you can maneuver the housing a little easier. There is some pins on the bottom that have to line up. And take the bolts for these brackets, slide these in position. And tighten them down. Put these two bolts in, tighten these down. Reattach the hose that goes right here. The one on the side that goes over here. And then underneath, if there was a hose underneath, you want to attach that underneath as well. Now we can put the coolant hose on, upper radiator hose. Use a clamp. Hose clamp tool, that's nice and tight. At this point, you can go back and top off the coolant if you lost any coolant. Put the airbags back in place. And clamp it down. Reconnect the connector. And lock this in. Slide the air snorkel on. Over the throttle body. And slide this hose on. Use the hose clamp pliers. Move that hose clamp over. And tighten down the worm clamps. Use a straight blade screwdriver. Snug it down. And snug it down over here. Put these bolts in. Tighten them down. Put this cover in place. And if you have the two bolts that go there, put those in and tighten them down. And now you can add the appropriate coolant. You can check your owner's manual to make sure you use the right type. Just make sure you use a 50-50 mix. So make sure this is full, and you can put the cap on here. You can start the vehicle, let it run. The reservoir is over here, so you want to make sure there's plenty of coolant in here, and there is a level on the side. So add the same coolant there. Run the vehicle for about 10 minutes, monitoring the coolant level, adjusting accordingly. After about 10 minutes and the engine's all warmed up and the heat is working properly, you can shut the vehicle down, let it cool, and then again, double check and adjust accordingly.